What if I told you that every betrayal you have ever suffered at the hands of a woman was not her choice? What if the manipulation, the cold silences, and the emotional destruction were not acts of conscious cruelty, but the inevitable output of an unconscious program? You will see the raw machinery working beneath the surface, but this knowledge comes at a cost. It requires the courage to dismantle your most deeply held beliefs about love, trust, and female nature. This leads us to Freud's most radical and misunderstood idea, one that eclipses even his revolutionary theories on sexuality and childhood. He proposed that the female superego, the internalized moral conscience that governs our sense of right and wrong, is fundamentally less rigid and more flexible than a man's. The reason for this, he argued, is rooted in a profound psychological divergence. The moment Anna O was cured, the moment Breuer had supposedly freed her from her trauma, she turned on him. She weaponized her newfound clarity. She began telling people a devastating lie, that she was pregnant with Breuer's child. He must sever that primary bond to step into his own masculine sovereignty. The tragic truth is that most men never fully succeed. They remain emotionally tethered to that first great love. As a result, they spend their adult lives unconsciously searching for one of two things in a partner: a woman who will replicate their mother's familiar patterns of control, or conversely, a woman who will punish them for their buried desire to finally escape that control. The false accusations spread like wildfire, nearly destroying his career and his marriage. What if the women perpetuating these cycles are not in control either? What if their sudden, inexplicable cruelty, their shocking rejections, and their capacity for emotional violence are not reflections of their character, but are the work of a hidden force even they cannot comprehend? What if they are merely conduits for a primal script, just as you are? This is the point where the blame game ends and the terrifying reality begins. You are not a victim of her, and she is not a victim of you. You are both casualties of a powerful, invisible war being waged in the unconscious, a war that started long before you ever met. It was an act of inexplicable psychological violence. Freud, reflecting on the case years later, came to a terrifying realization. Anna O's hysteria was not merely a passive illness. It was an active, subconscious strategy. It was a powerful tool of manipulation, a sophisticated weapon her unconscious had deployed to exert control over the men in her life, especially the powerful doctor who held her fate in his hands. This case revealed a fundamental law of the female psyche. Women do not lie in the way a man does, consciously and with clear intent. Their unconscious mind is capable of completely rewriting reality, of altering memories and manufacturing entire narratives to serve a pressing emotional need. She is not lying to you. She is inhabiting a different reality, one her unconscious has constructed for her survival. A man's moral development is primarily structured by guilt. This is the theory that a man's entire romantic life, his attractions, his conflicts, and his ultimate fate with women is often a subconscious reenactment of his primary relationship with his mother. It is a script written in childhood that he is doomed to perform, over and over again, with different actresses. Think about your own childhood with unflinching honesty. When you disappointed your mother, did she punish you with the silent treatment, withdrawing her affection until you bent to her will? Did she only shower you with praise and warmth when you were obedient, when your desires aligned with hers? Did she instill in you a sense of guilt for wanting to be your own man, for desiring independence from her? If any of this sounds familiar, then congratulations, you were not raised, you were trained. You were conditioned from your most vulnerable age to equate emotional manipulation with love, to accept conditional affection as the only affection that exists. You were programmed to be a perfect partner for a woman who would continue this dynamic. Guilt is an internal judge, a self-inflicted punishment for violating one's own principles. A woman's moral compass, however, is shaped by shame. Shame is not an internal judge, but an external one. It is the agonizing fear of social judgment, of being seen as flawed by the tribe. This single distinction is the key. It means that a man's behavior is, at its core, governed by a set of internal principles, however flawed they may be. A woman's behavior, by contrast, is governed by the shifting winds of social survival. Her actions are not guided by a fixed what is right, but by a constantly updating what is acceptable. This makes her moral framework pragmatic and adaptable, but also terrifyingly untethered from any permanent truth, It is the concept that free will, the very foundation of our identity, is largely an illusion. He argued that as much as 90% of our daily actions, thoughts, and emotions are not products of our conscious, rational mind. Instead, they are dictated by the unconscious, a vast, shadowy kingdom within us, teeming with repressed desires, primal instincts, and the indelible imprints of our earliest experiences. For women, Freud observed, this internal dynamic is even more pronounced, more extreme. So, the first question is not what Freud discovered, but whether you possess the strength to confront it. A program so ancient and so deeply embedded in the female psyche that she remains a complete stranger to its commands. Consider the famous case of Anna, a cornerstone of psychoanalytic history. What they teach you in universities is that this young woman, Bertha Pappenheim, suffered from a severe case of hysteria, a now obsolete diagnosis for a constellation of symptoms including partial paralysis, hallucinations, and volatile mood swings. They tell you that Freud's mentor, Joseph Breuer, treated her using a pioneering talking cure, which involved placing her under hypnosis to uncover repressed memories related to the illness and death of her father. The story usually ends there, with Anna O's miraculous recovery and the birth of psychoanalysis. For decades, the pioneering psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud dedicated his life to charting the labyrinthine depths of the female mind. He unearthed patterns of thought and behavior so profoundly unsettling, so contrary to our cherished social narratives, that the world of modern academia has systematically buried them. They were deemed too controversial, too dangerous for public consumption. But within his private correspondence, his unpublished notes, and the raw details of his most challenging case studies, a terrifying truth emerges. Women are guided and often controlled by psychological forces that lie far beyond their own understanding and control. By the time you finish this series, the illusions that society has built around the female mind will crumble before your eyes. Imagine a scene that has played out for countless men throughout history. You meet her. She is not just beautiful, but intelligent, articulate, and seemingly self-aware. She looks you in the eyes and lays out her desires with stunning clarity. She wants a man of integrity, a partner who values loyalty and honesty above all else. She tells you she is tired of games, tired of the shallow world of modern dating. You believe her. Why wouldn't you? Her conviction is flawless, so you invest. You give her your time, your trust, your vulnerability, everything she claimed to want. And then, one ordinary Tuesday, it's over. There is no fight, no warning, no final conversation. There is only a void where your connection used to be. She leaves with a coldness that negates everything that came before it, an emotionless efficiency that leaves you questioning your own sanity. What just happened? You will torment yourself for months, replaying every conversation, searching for the fatal misstep. But you will never find it, because the answer does not lie in the realm of logic. Freud would tell you the truth. She did not choose to leave you. Her unconscious mind made the decision for her. In his 1925 paper, Some Psychical Consequences of the Anatomical Distinction Between the Sexes, Freud made a chilling observation. The world of psychology celebrates Freud's work, but it presents a sanitized, politically correct version. They conveniently omit his most dangerous findings. But that is not the whole story. Here's the part they don't teach you. This leads us to what is perhaps Freud's most perilous discovery for the modern man: the mother complex. In his work on the dissolution of the Oedipus complex, Freud wrote that, for a boy to mature into a psychologically healthy man, he must symbolically kill his infantile attachment to his mother. But this raises an even more profound and unsettling question. In the last part, we left off on the edge of a terrifying abyss. The idea that men and women are casualties in a psychological war neither of them controls. You have been trained since birth by your relationship with your mother, and she, in turn, is driven by forces that lie buried beneath her conscious awareness. She hangs on your every word, laughs at all your jokes, and touches your arm with a familiarity that feels electric. She locks eyes with you, giving you that one look, the look that wordlessly communicates, "I am yours." In 1905, Freud began treating an 18-year-old girl who had been brought to him for depression and a persistent nervous cough. She did not confront her father, nor did she rage at his mistress. Frau K. Beneath it lies the unthinking, unfeeling logic of biology. She is a passenger in this process. Ask her why she suddenly lost all attraction to you the week after she seemed so devoted. In ancient Sparta, a culture renowned for its brutal pragmatism, husbands were forbidden from sleeping with their wives during menstruation. This was not a moral or religious law. It was a practical one. The Spartans knew that a bleeding woman is, on a deep biological level, a hostile woman. A man's primary loyalty can be to an abstract principle, a nation, a company, a mission. A woman's primary loyalty, he observed, is almost always to the survival and security of her immediate nest. A man builds, a woman consumes. This isn't a moral judgment. It is a description of evolutionary roles. They didn't blame her for it or try to talk through her feelings. It is the primal female script, the one she runs, no matter how educated, enlightened, or independent she claims to be. In the beginning, you are perfect. You are the one she has been waiting for. Once she has secured your interest, the tests begin. She will pick fights over nothing. She will withdraw her affection to see how you react. She will gauge your every response, looking for weakness. She mirrors your interests, adopts your hobbies, and laughs at your jokes, making you feel seen and chosen in a way no one else has. It has 3 distinct phases. They simply understood the underlying mechanism and managed it by creating distance. They knew that arguing with a biological imperative is a losing battle. In the brutal world of our hunter-gatherer ancestors, this algorithm was a survival tool. Women evolved to mate with the strongest warrior to pass on superior genes, secure resources from the most stable provider to raise her children, and efficiently eliminate any man who could not compete. This ancient script is still running, silently, in the mind of the woman sitting across from you today. She will not say, "My hormones changed." It is characterized by coldness, silence, and baffling excuses like, "You're too good for me," or "I need to work on myself." Her conscious mind cannot accept such a humbling explanation. Instead, it will invent a reason, a rationalization, to make sense of the biological command. She'll say, "I just realized we're not compatible," or "You said something that made me see you differently." The reasons are irrelevant. They are masks. The raw truth is that her biology, an ancient algorithm designed for procreation, vetoed you. Modern studies are now proving what ancient cultures knew instinctively. A woman's personality is not a constant. It is a fluctuating state directly tied to her menstrual cycle. Even the love of the most devoted mother for her son is shadowed by a fundamental subconscious resentment. Why? Because he possesses something she does not, the freedom to leave. This, Freud hinted, is the primary trauma of the female sick, the deep, instinctual knowledge that all love is temporary, that her children will grow up and abandon her to build their own lives. So, from the earliest age, the female unconscious is trained in one single survival strategy: extract maximum resources, security, and commitment, while maintaining plausible deniability. During ovulation, when she is most fertile, her biology takes over. The wife of 10 years who suddenly announces she has fallen out of love right after the mortgage is paid off and the children are self-sufficient. Her feelings didn't just change. Her unconscious mission was accomplished. She secured the resources and stability she needed, and now her biology is pushing her toward novelty. Consider the girlfriend who constantly tests you with petty arguments and emotional dramas.
How's the Stacy?
She isn't crazy, as her frustrated partners might claim. Her unconscious is running a diagnostic. She is stress-testing your leadership, your patience, your ability to remain calm in a storm. If you fail by becoming too emotional, by caving into isoli, her biology flags you as weak, a poor long-term investment. She becomes more flirtatious, more adventurous, more psychologically and physically attracted to men who display dominant masculine traits, the strong warrior, the confident leader. During menstruation, her hormonal profile shifts dramatically. She becomes more irritable, critical, and hypersensitive to any perceived slight or sign of weakness. Instead, her unconscious mind, seeking a target for her immense pain, redirected her fury onto the safest and most convenient man available, her therapist, Sigmund Freud. She abruptly quit her therapy sessions, accusing Freud of completely misunderstanding her and her situation. It was a classic misdirection. Years later, she returned to his office, not for help, but to mock his methods and gloat over his supposed failure. The lesson from Dora is a brutal one for every man to learn. A woman as pain rarely strikes its intended target. It ricochets. If she cannot or will not punish the person who truly hurt her, her unconscious will select a substitute. And that substitute is almost always the closest man, the one who has shown her kindness, the one who is trying to help. Through his careful analysis, Freud uncovered a sordid family secret. Dora's father was having an affair with a married woman, Frau K, to maintain his secret and keep the husband, Herr K, from becoming suspicious. Dora's father devised a monstrous plan. He effectively offered his own daughter to Herr K as a sexual distraction. It was a staggering act of paternal betrayal. But here is where the lesson of hysterical cognition becomes clear. You feel the tension in your shoulders release. You relax. You allow yourself to trust. 3 days later, she ghosts you. Not a slow fade, but a sudden total severance. No returned calls, no reply to your texts. Just a deafening silence that makes you question the reality of the dinner you just had. What could have possibly changed in 72 hours? The logical part of your brain will scream that you must have done something wrong. The truth is far more humbling. Nothing you did changed, because the decision was never conscious. It wasn't even hers to make. Freud only suspected it, but modern science is beginning to confirm it. Women are not the rational, self-aware creatures that society, and they themselves, pretend to be. They are hosts to a deeper, older program, and today, we expose that program. We go deeper. We move beyond the psychological programming of childhood and into the unchangeable, unyielding domain of biology. This is the source code. The primal algorithm written not in logic or reason, but in blood, hormones, and millions of years of brutal survival instinct. You are sitting across from her at dinner. She is captivated. Every man has been on the receiving end of this condescending phrase. She is just more emotionally intelligent than you. It's a convenient explanation for her unpredictable behavior, her sudden moods, her seemingly intuitive insights. But what society labels as female emotional intelligence is something else entirely. It is a hypersensitivity to social dynamics, an acute awareness of power, status, and vulnerability. Women do not understand emotions better than men. They weaponize them faster. Freud had a term for this: hysterical cognition. He defined it as the female mind's astonishing ability to rewrite history, distort facts, and even surgically alter its own memories to serve an immediate and overwhelming emotional need. It is a psychological defense mechanism of immense power. His files are filled with examples, but none are more illuminating than the case of Dora. A man in this situation would likely direct his rage squarely at the source, his treacherous father, but Dora did not. This psychological programming is powerful, but it is only one layer of the code. But here's the part that no one ever tells you, the part she herself will never admit because she does not know it. Ancient societies, unburdened by modern sentimentality, understood this. This biological reality leads to what may be Freud's most brutal and unforgiving insight. A woman's love is never truly unconditional. You can see this strategy playing out everywhere. In his book Civilization and Its Discontents, Freud argued that women often act as enemies of civilization. This was not an insult. It was a clinical observation. Every man who has dated more than one woman recognizes the pattern. 1. The idealization phase. 2. The testing phase. 3. The discard phase. This phase is entered the moment you fail the tests or the moment her unconscious decides your resources have been maximized. It is instinct. It happens to every man. After enough heartbreak, after navigating the predictable cycles of idealization and discard, he believes he has finally found the exception. This woman, he tells himself, is different. She is not like the others. She scorns the games. She reads challenging books, and speaks with genuine passion about her desire for depth, loyalty, and a love that transcends the shallow world of modern dating. He saw that women have two sexualities, often at war with one another: the Madonna and the animal. She married a meek, supportive husband to match her intellectual ideals. Then she began a secret affair with a rough, uneducated laborer who ignored her opinions and treated her as an afterthought. She was miserable, but couldn't stop. The lesson is that her conscious mind chose the good man, but her primal animal craved the dominance of the other. The Madonna is the nurturing, loving, socially acceptable wife material she presents to the world. Every man in a long-term relationship has experienced it. The terrifying moment is warm. Loving partner becomes someone cold, distant, and alien. Freud called this feeling the uncanny, the horror of the familiar becoming strange. But what if this cruelty is not aimed solely at you? Society teaches a woman that she is morally superior to mankind, nobler. When her own primal, dark, and manipulative instincts rise up, she is disgusted with herself. Asterisk. Every woman lives in fear that if you see her darkness, her selfishness, her manipulative urges, her primal desires, you will reject or abandon her. It is about your weakness, your fear, and your naive childish hope that love is supposed to be fair. It is about forging a masculine frame that is stronger than her emotional chaos. The only way to win this game is to stop playing by her rules and finally start playing by yours. The typical nice guy recoils from this darkness, confirming her fear. The man who understands acknowledges her darkness without fear or judgment. When she tests you with drama, you remain calm. When she is cruel, you are indifferent. You see her animal side and you are not afraid of it. This demonstrates a rare and profound strength that her unconscious has no choice but to respect, because it is the only language it truly understands. She hates the animal within because it violates the sacred image of the good woman she has been taught she is. The cruelty and rejection she directs at you are often a projection, an outward manifestation of the savage war she is waging against her own nature. They confess that no nice guy who came after could ever create the same spark. You have two choices: remain ignorant and continue playing a game that is rigged against you, or learn the forbidden solution. Asterisk. The more you need her, the less she wants you. Neediness kills attraction because it signals a lack of options and low value. The solution is emotional sovereignty. You must be willing to walk away, not as a manipulative threat, but as a genuine statement of your own self-worth. When she senses you are not dependent on her for your happiness, her instinct to capture what is scarce and valuable is triggered. This is not about learning to manipulate women. It is about learning to survive them by understanding the rules of the game. When you justify your actions or explain yourself, you diminish your own power and place yourself in a subordinate position, like a child asking a mother for approval. Powerful men act with conviction. They do not over-explain. Mystery is compelling because it gives her imagination room to work, and her imagination will often paint a far more attractive picture of you than your words ever could. The world tells you to be vulnerable and talk about your feelings. But Freud knew that for many women, a man's emotional vulnerability is deeply repulsive because it signals weakness. The solution lies in understanding 3 of Freud's unwritten laws. That is because the spark is not love. It is a chemical addiction. In our brutal prehistoric past, these traits were essential for survival. The narcissist led the tribe. The Machiavel outsmarted rivals. The psychopath killed threats without hesitation. The women who were repulsed by these traits, who chose gentler mates, often saw their lines extinguished. The women who were drawn to the power these traits represented survived and passed on their genes. Today, modern women carry the genetic echo of this preference. Even if a woman consciously claims to hate these qualities, her biology often responds to the ancient signal of power they transmit. A stable, loving man provides a steady sense of peace. The toxic man provides a roller coaster of pain, followed by intermittent reward. This cycle creates intense craving and floods her brain with a powerful cocktail of dopamine and cortisol, a combination her body mistakes for overwhelming passion. She is not addicted to the man himself. She is addicted to the chaos he represents. It is the version of her that society values and that you fall in love with. Women are, on a primal level, drawn to men who exhibit one or more of these 3 traits. Narcissism, an unshakable self-belief that signals he is a genetic winner. Machiavellianism, a strategic cunning that signals he can navigate social hierarchies and acquire resources. And psychopathy, a cool emotional detachment that signals he can be ruthless in protecting his own. The animal is her secret primal self that emerges in the shadows, a hidden force that craves chaos, power, and dominance. This is why the fierce feminist activist can have fantasies of being overpowered, and why the loyal girlfriend can be secretly thrilled by the attention of a dangerous man. When society forces the animal into a cage, it doesn't die. It grows stronger and more desperate in the dark. Her intelligence seems to place her on a higher plane, a fortress protecting her from the primal script. So you let your guard down. You dismantle the walls you built, you open yourself up, believing you have finally found the one woman who operates on logic and principle. You trust her words. And then, one day, the warmth vanishes. The light in her eyes goes out, replaced by a chilling emptiness. Freud would have laughed at this naive optimism. He knew that human behavior is not driven by our conscious thoughts and noble intentions, but by primal drives operating relentlessly beneath the surface of our civilized lives. A woman can sincerely believe she wants a gentle, kind, and supportive man. Her conscious mind can build a compelling case for it. But her body, her very nervous system, forged in an era of brutal survival, often responds to something else entirely. She looks at you, but it's as if she's looking at a stranger. She speaks in cold, rehearsed lines that feel utterly disconnected from the bond you thought you shared. You will search for a reason, a mistake you made, but you will find nothing. Because you broke the one rule that Sigmund Freud warned about. You assumed her intellect could conquer her biology. You made the fatal error of believing her conscious mind was in the driver's seat. Modern society is built on a comforting fantasy that education, feminism, and self-awareness have somehow freed women from their ancient instincts. This conflict is rooted in a core female duality that Freud identified. Freud's case files illustrate this perfectly. He treated a brilliant female academic who publicly ridiculed traditional gender roles. This duality explains the trauma bond. Many women admit they can never forget an ex-boyfriend who treated them terribly. Freud never used the modern term, but he perfectly described the magnetic appeal of the dark triad. These are not flaws in female nature. They are deeply ingrained evolutionary features. This creates the central tragedy of the female psyche, the woman at war with herself. Now you have seen the traps, the scripts, and the internal conflict. 1. Asterisk, the law of paradoxical intent. 2. Asterisk, the power of the unsaid. Asterisk, women are masters of subcommunication. They are bored by literal, lengthy explanations. 3. Asterisk, the shadow self-strategy. You have been told this is all about women, about their flaws and complexities. It is not. It is about you.